When we entered the orphanage of Granados, there were around 20 children playing with various pieces of what appeared to be, to us, trash. Upon closer inspection, we found out these were obviously valuable playthings to these children. They had gone through the trash and picked up tidbits of old forks, blankets, and other things and created toys and dolls out of them to play with. The image of that day where they were playing with these trash dolls, the image of the dirt, concrete beds, and paper-thin children who were malnourished, has stayed with me to this day and forever changed my ideas on aid work and what ought to be done in the world. Of course, this village in Guatemala is renowned for villages and orphanages just like Granados, which are somewhat remote from main population centers and have very little clean or running water, if any at all. They live a very basic and primitive lifestyle without any real medical supplies or help from the outside world, besides what aid workers can offer. With over 35 different hotspots, according to the World Health Organization worldwide, as aid organizations are overstretched and overworked, and it is up to individual volunteers now with smaller organizations to help these people in remote areas. You as a first world citizen can help these children with minimal sacrifice on your part, and through and according to your means and level of commitment and knowledge. Few facts do not come close to describing the situation as it is in the world, but still provide some sort of important imagery. Of course, the situation is dire. It does not need very much adornment at all, so I'll give the facts to you, straight and plain, as they are. Each year there are over 500 million people living in what the World Bank describes as absolute poverty. While the world spends around 100 times more on defense every year, the price of the average missile can feed a school full of hungry children for around 5 years. The international and national organizations are obviously not doing enough to prevent malnourishment and hunger worldwide, as they ought to be. Even as close as Mississippi in the United States, shanty towns with inadequate water supplies are the byproducts of recent storms, tornadoes, and hurricanes. The need right there is for direct assistance from volunteers, and that is even a small leap from anywhere in the United States. Half of these children are malnourished in their own right, and that doesn't even include hotspots such as Somalia and West Africa, where over 50% of the children born there are under a heavy degree of malnourishment every year. This picture of a malnourished child describes it well. Though the word malnourished seems innocent enough, perhaps merely an uncomfortable state of being, you can see it's rather more than that. It is a step before death. It's a gradual decline into organ failure, the step before you die of absolute starvation. The most important part of going on aid work is opening your eyes. It's bringing the message of children such as that home, and endeavoring to change things in a more permanent and collective way, changing culture, so that we know, as first world citizens, that perhaps instead of taking 1 week vacation, perhaps instead of spending that money on a new generator or dirt bike, perhaps we ought to go on a small trip, 2-3 days, a week. It makes all the difference in the world to some hungry orphans in Guatemala. The old author Norman Lear once said, "It seems to me that any full-grown, mature adult would have a desire to be responsible, to help where he can, and do what he can for a world that needs us so very much, which at the same time threatens us so very much." Norman had the idea that we were all dependent on one another, that we all have a responsibility and a duty, an eye-opening duty at that. In 2003 alone, the lives of at least 300 children were saved by aid provided by the World Health Organization, where they gave vitamin A supplements to children in need. Funding and donation may get these drugs, but they need people, volunteers like us, to take them into the field to the children who actually need them. And another example of this is the Peace Corps in Ghana, which from the roots up changed the country and one of the best in South Africa, or actually the African continent as a whole. With only 25 aid workers starting there in the 1980s, it eventually evolved to over 100 aid workers, who changed the very level government into a working democracy with sanitation, water supply, and hospitals that were the best in Africa. So a small amount of people can do a huge amount of good, even in Africa. Even in high schools and colleges, there's often sponsored trips to locations that need aid work. And almost everywhere it does need aid work. These locations are both safe and simple ways to get actively involved in helping others who need it dearly. In fact, that's the way that I myself got involved on that trip to the orphanage in Granados. Going through there was a high school experience that opened my eyes. In a single week, we had significantly raised their standard of living with new beds, a roof, running water, as well as various necessary medical supplies. Being able to get into foreign aid doesn't have to be a career choice. It's simply a volunteer thing. On a volunteer thing, you can still do a lot of good. Even at peacecorps.org, you'll find various ways you can get involved in aid work without committing too much of your time or resources. Though it may seem extreme, perhaps even patronizing, people in this world need your help. You can help them with minimal effort on your part. You can change their lives with a single week of your time, even with a single day. The only problems in this world that are unsolvable are those that we never lift our hands to resolve.